Hello and welcome, my name's Sam and this is the Little Greenhouse Creates. Thank you for joining me today. We are on our second card for this week's stamp set of the week, Endless Love. So these are the stamps that came into play on Monday. We are going to bring in the papers, which I'll show you in a second, and I've also got a couple of the dies coming out, but you'll see most of those on Friday. So let me show you the card first of all. So it's this card here. It's very simple Valentine's card. We've got a heart shape cut out here, an arrow, and then you've got some detail on inside. So it's more about the papers. Oh, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat this morning. So as you can see, I have used some of these already. So let's just undo my bag and bring them out. Oh, come on in. Okay, so we have got... So it's this beautiful paper. It's variegated, so it starts off quite light and comes all the way down to the real red. Then I've got, so I'll show you on the other side of that one. That's the papers that we've already used in the card previously. Then we have this really small hearts, and on the side reverse there are flowers. So this is ideal paper. If you're not really into Valentine's, you can still use these papers because there are other things that you could associate the designer series paper with. So obviously you've got flowers, so that's birthday. You've got arrows on this side, but you could do it as an anniversary card. What else have I got? So that's 1, 2. I just don't want to bring out all the bits. I think, yeah, I've shown you all the bits now, so I can show you the rest. Right. Okay, so you have got tiny hearts, tiny little pink hearts going down in little columns. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I was trying to show you that. And this is the reverse. So this is, again, tiny hearts, but they are in white and real red, and they seem to be on the background of Flirty Flamingo. Then I've got... This is red, real red, and it's got like Flirty Flamingo dashes going down, so it's like a dot dash. I suppose you could call it Morse code. This is the reverse of it, which is obviously loads of hearts. I love this one, really love this one. I can see this being used quite a lot for non-romantic cards. So yes, birthdays, anniversaries, thank yous, those kind of things. And on the reverse of that one is more hearts. You've got 1, 2, 3, I think about 4 shades. And you've got Bubble Bath, Flirty Flamingo, probably that's real red, so maybe 3, and then the white in between. And then you've got this very, well, it catches your eye, doesn't it? It's the striped version, and on the back of the striped version are all these, I seem to be upside down, let's turn it around the right way round, X and O's, so hugs and kisses really. Right, so that's the papers to go with this set. I'm just going to put this back in the bag, otherwise chaos will reign and we'll all get wet. There we go. Right, so let's bring in the supplies. So this is the card, and what I've got, let's have a quick look at the supplies. So I have a real red card base, which measures 8 inches by 5 3/4. I have a piece of the designer series paper, which measures 3 3/4 by 5 1/2, and the same measurement for the white piece of card that goes on inside. So I have the die, which is the heart, and I have an arrow. Now I've already cut out the arrow in Blackberry Bliss. I have also got myself a piece of white cardstock, which measures 1 1/2 by 2 1/2, and that's because I'm not making a Valentine's card, but it's going to be an anniversary card. And then what I've done is, on this, I've done 1 5/8 and 2 1 5/8. So it's got a small border to go around the top, and then the sentiment will go on there. So the first thing we need to do is move these things out of the way. Okay, is I'm going to fold this. Now you can score it or fold it. I'm going to just fold it, but you can score it at the 4-inch score line and then burnish with your bone folder. Now we need to attach our designer series paper, so that goes on straight on like this. All right, now glue is fine, stamp and seal is fine. I'm actually going to use my tearing tape, because what I want to do is I want to make sure that all the edges are sealed, because obviously we're going to be cutting into a part of the paper and the what do I call it, the ZSP and the cardstock, to get that window in. Okay, so there it goes. Right, so I need my pointy tool, which is here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the top of that off and fold it halfway back. Do the same on this way. This is just going to allow me to make it easier to position it. I'll show you what I mean in a second. There we go, and there we go. To there. Oops, stay there. Perfect. Right, so turn it over, and you're now going to hold onto the backing of the paper here and here. Bring in the card base, and then you can position it over the top of where you'd like it to go. And once you're happy, you can then pop it down and tear off the rest. So down there, down there, and down there. Okay, so the next thing to do is to work out where you want your heart to go. Okay, and before you decide, make sure that you've got, if you're having an arrow, that your arrow is in place, because you don't want it to be too far over. For example, if you put it here, you might find that your arrow is over the edge. So I'm going to be looking at probably somewhere around about there. Let's just make sure my arrow fits. It's not going to, no, it's not going to go over the page. And just for convenience, I'm going to add a piece of washi tape. She said, if I can find the edge. Do you always find that's a bit like sellotape, isn't it? You can never find the edge. Come on, where are you? I know you're there. I can feel you, but you're just not. Maybe I'm going the wrong direction. There we go. There we go. There we go. Right, so this is quite sticky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the back of my hand first and take some of the stick off, because I obviously don't want it tearing the paper. So I think I'm going to have it there. Let's make sure my arrow is in the right location. Yeah. And then I'm just going to pop it down and across. Okay. I'm going to bring in my cutting blade. I will open it up, and when I run it through the machine, because it will go through the machine that way, I'm only going to put the blade, the plate, that far over, because obviously I don't want to run this through because it will flatten the crease, and I don't want to cut any further. So bear with me while I do that. Okay, so I have brought it back. That bit's fallen out already. Let's, if you can hear that scraping, I apologise. It is my cat. She has decided she wants to come into the room. The only problem with that is that if I let her into the room, she will be all over the place and we just won't get anything done. So by putting down the arrows there and not putting glue on the middle, we've now got 2 hearts that we can quite happily use on another project. Right, so that's what it's going to look like. So it's now time to bring in your white piece of card base. Now I don't want to stick it down for obvious reasons, that if I make a mistake, it is going to be very hard to tear it off. So still keeping hold of the washi tape I've already used, because it's not so sticky. going to pop a tiny bit up there, and then I'm going to put a tiny bit down there, which then means I can bring that over. That will hold it in place, and I can bring in my heart. Now, the heart I used for this card is the one that's got all the lines. So it's this one, obviously. And the one I'm going to use now is this one. Right, so I'm going to stamp it in Blackberry Bliss, she says. So I'm going to ink it up. There we go. And then I'm going to look, see the paper didn't move, but the card did. So that was not quite as successful as I'd hoped. Right, let's try that again. Right. Let's reposition that because I really don't want to make that mistake. Okay, so do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put one piece on this card, put that over the top like that, and then I'm going to put one piece there to hold that down. And hopefully, no, I will need to put another piece on. It's always best to be over cautious, isn't it? You don't want to make a mistake. Right, and let's do it that way as well. There we go. So this now can come over, and you're going to bring your heart in, and you are going to position it in the gap. And straight down. There it is. It's in the gap. Perfect. Phew. I'm then going to bring in a small heart, which I'm going to stamp in the middle with Poppy Parade. So let's ink that up. There we go. Hold that down, and then the heart can go in the middle. Right. So once you're happy that that's in place, you can then take your washi tape off gently. So the last thing you want to do is ruin your card. There we go. And then you can add your details to here. So I am bringing in Today and Always. My card is originally going to say Happy Anniversary. Today and Always. I'm going to put it up there. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in this cluster of hearts, and I'm going to ink that up in the Poppy Parade. I'm happy with that, and then that's going to come up here. And there we go. Right, so that can now be positioned. I'm going to use my glue for that. Oops. There we go. And that's going to go into there. Now before I firmly stick it down, I just want to make sure that the positioning of the heart is right, because if it's not, you can always move it slightly over, which is what I'm just going to do here. Yep, I'm happy with that. And then you can just push it down. Right, so the next thing to do is our sentiment. So again, I'm going to use the Blackberry Bliss. So as I said, I'm using Happy Anniversary. Just going to give it, that's it, a firm push down there. Make sure that's straight and on the paper. There we are. Let's close this ink up before I put it everywhere that I don't need to put it. And that can go onto there. Before I do that, I'm just going to try and make a decision whether or not I want to sprinkle a couple of little hearts, because I could sprinkle a heart there in red. Let's see if I can do it. If I can't, then I will need to cut myself another piece. So let's do that one. So I'm going to do bring in another piece. There we go. So I can put a heart there. Look at that. Perfect. And I could probably put a heart at the top there. Let's try that. You've got to love these impromptu ideas, haven't you? I think so scary. Lovely. And I probably need to go one there. So let's see, which one will I use? So if I do it there, it should cover up those. Right, let's have a look. Okay. Just going to bring it down further so I can see it. Bear with me. Nope, that didn't work, did it? Oh, damn. Yeah, there we go. Phew. Right, so I've got my little 3 hearts on there. That can now be layered up onto our Blackberry Bliss border. There we are. Perfect. Right, that can now come in and be put onto there. Do I have it flat or do I raise it? That's the question. Let's have it flat. There we go. So that goes over there. So I'm literally, with the Valentine's Day, I measured the sentiment and then knew it's going to go all the way across. So for this particular card, depending on which sentiment you put on, just measure around your sentiment. So for this one is, so this one was 1 1/4 by 2 1/4. So I wanted it to be a little bit bigger, so I made it 1 1/2 by 2 1/2. And then once I did that, I knew what size of border I wanted. So the next thing to do is to add my arrow, which will go like that. So thing to do is very little space. There's a tiny bit down here and down here that you can put glue, and then you've got this little triangle, if you can see it. See the white bits just there to take a blob of glue, and obviously you want it then in a position so that it does not seal itself to the other side. So there we go. That is today's card and introducing the beautiful papers. I didn't tell you what they're called. I think, let's have a quick look. These are called Made with Love papers, but I will put them, add them to my supply list. So perfect. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. I hope you like these cards. Don't forget to join me on Friday when we'll do our funky fold. Take care. Bye.